Well, today, and mercifully, in very short time, they did the draw for the Champions League. I tuned in at 11 o'clock expecting it to take the usual 2 hours, but John Terry must be on the clock because he just whizzed through it. And out it came. I suppose because they seed the teams, Dan, it was a little bit... There's no huge clashes in it. I guess Atletico Madrid will feel that they've got a tough draw. Let's start with the English teams. And Manchester City got the one that most, despite Copenhagen's excellent qualification, City got the draw that gives them the best chance of progress against the Scandinavians.
Yep, they're through. It's done.
Yeah.
No drama there. Arsenal, a bit tougher first game. As long as they're at it out there, then they should overcome that the way they play. I mean, I know we've got a few months to go, so things can change, and all of a sudden the dynamic...
Well, that's part of it, isn't it? By February, who knows how these clubs will be.
What I would say is the thing that disappointed me, and I don't know how long this has been going on, so it might be my ignorance, but if you finish top, of course you get the luxury of playing someone who finishes second.
Yeah.
So you're rewarded for finishing top by playing someone who finishes second, which should give you an advantage. Then what they do is they say, well, I'll tell you what we're also going to do is make sure you have your home game second as well.
Yeah.
I mean, let's put a bit of jeopardy in it.
Absolutely.
You know, because all of a sudden, I know playing in Europe, all different levels, that playing at home second, I don't know if there will be a stat to back this up, I'm pretty damn sure of it, that if you play at home second, you're going to go, the more teams will go through. Because you're at home with the fans behind, you know what you got to do. And you can go away in the first game, be a bit more cautious, nick a result, come back, and there you go. And it changes the whole dynamic of the game, of the tie for certain ties, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It feels to me like they're trying desperately to make sure the big names get through.
Well, Danny, I mean, here let me clear my throat coming off my long run-up. You think this is nonsense? Wait till you see the Champions League next season. I'm sure you're far too busy to be studying it with the jeweler's eyepiece, the new format. I am not. This is filled with jeopardy and danger for the big clubs compared to what they're not planning, that they're going to implement next season.
Go on.
Where they have this huge league where you don't play everybody home and away. You don't even play all the teams in the league. There's a seeded draw. You play two in the group stage. You play two of the teams who are in the top pot with you, two of the teams in the middle pot outside of yours, and two of the teams in the lower pot. I'm not quite sure how they decide who's home and away, but it's an absolute... most dogs would refuse it as dinner, but it's just an attempt, once again, to make absolutely certain that certain clubs, Juventus, do not end up going out of the Champions League too early. It also adds 2 more games to that schedule I was telling you about. If you're going to win the Champions League now, you've got to win an extra 2 games. The UEFA, if you go to the UEFA site to see what they're saying about it, Darren, you as a person who works with words, I had to snigger. So this is our new way. This is for the benefit of the fans and the players. Is it really? I'd say it's for the benefit of the big clubs and the television companies myself. Yeah. But of course, UEFA are never going to admit that. But anyway, back to the actual games, because Danny's right. Some of the jeopardy's taken out by the way that it's been arranged, and I would very much expect Arsenal and Manchester City to go through. The only tie where you could say I don't actually know the winners here, I guess, is the one between Inter Milan and Atletico Madrid. An Atletico Madrid team that at home are playing brilliantly this season, but away from home, where they'll start, are powder puff, which you just don't expect of a Diego Simeone team.
Yeah,
and go on.
The other tie is Napoli-Barcelona as well, because Napoli are coming into a bit of form. I think the weekend was one of the first games where Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia scored in the same game so
first
far
time this season, yeah.
And they're really starting to pick it up, whereas Barcelona, they are starting to drop off just at the wrong time. And obviously they'll need to find some solutions in January. So that's the other tie for me, which could go either way. But other than that, there's not a lot of jeopardy at all.
I think they were missing one, which is the PSG Real Sociedad. Yeah. Real Sociedad finished top of the group, remember?
And PSG's away record is not great.
No, and they've got a young side.
So now every game is full of jeopardy, according to us.
No, I think Atletico would be favourites against Inter, but maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, I think that Paris Real Sociedad's an interesting one.
I don't, for what it's worth, Dan, I think Inter will go through there just because they are the best team in Italy.
Yeah.
And in Lautaro Martinez and Thuram, Marcus Thuram, they have the two form players in Italy at the moment. Martinez can't stop scoring, and he seems to have found in Thuram a perfect partner whose strength adds to Martinez's guile, I suppose is the word I'd use. I think Atletico, of course they can beat anybody at the Wanderley. They're really, really good. They're the Metropolitano. I just wonder whether they'll have enough for an Inter Milan team that made it all the way to the final, don't forget, last time, and where I think AC Milan's arrival in the semi-finals of the Champions League was an illusion. I think Inter are actually a pretty good team. Now then, I've already tested you about next year's sort of organisation of the Champions League. Darren, you're the brain box among us. Are you following the coefficient business? And the possibility of a fifth place for England in the Champions League.
Well, there had been that concern around Manchester United's performances for exactly that reason. They were playing so poorly.
Newcastle also finishing bottom doesn't help.
Exactly, doesn't help at all. So all those people who might have been looking across and tribalism kicking in as it does, maybe having some fun at their expense, but it could really affect the probability of England having 5 teams in the Champions League instead of 4.
Can you be more specific? Can you give us more of a ratio, a percentage, or how it works, or give me something? Because I don't know.
I can help here, if I may. Not because I know, but because I've had experts explain it to me on Trans Europe Express
He's
last
the
night.
assistant of the assistants, editor of the Mirror.
You're absolutely right, Danny. I'm going to shut up. Come on, Lewis. Earn your corn.
Listen,
Come on.
I'll let you go, because when it comes, I'm good with words and not with all of the probabilities and all of that and the numbers.
Do you know
I'll let you do
what it is, Danny? Is that at the moment Germany and Italy occupy those 2 places. I think I'm right in saying,
based
on the accumulated performances of their teams over the past. Is it this season or is it over a number of years? I think it's this season, and England haven't done quite as well. But the gap between third, where England are, and second is tiny. And I mean, it's not impossible to believe that an English team will win the Champions League. City, Arsenal. It's not impossible that Liverpool will win the Europa League. It's almost ridiculous if Aston Villa don't win the conference. So there's a load of points piling up. Now, I'll tell you what I'll do. I work with a man called James Moore. He's the commissioning editor of The Athletic. I work on the Tottenham Hotspur podcast that people actually want to be on, Darren, with James. And he assured me today, and he's not a man to be argued with. He's a very big presence, not least because he's 6'5". He told me that there is no way on God's green earth that England won't get that 5th Champions League place.
That'll do for me.
Well, I'm going with him now, and if it goes wrong, I will, of course, be throwing him straight under the number 17, first chance that I get.
Yeah, this is getting clipped
it's
up
actually
already.
Great news if so, because especially for Tottenham and Newcastle supporters at the moment who are a little bit out of it and maybe think they could be on the periphery, with Villa doing so well.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Italy have still got 7 teams left in Europe, I think I'm right in saying, but they're not all particularly strong. And Germany, who are currently top of that table, I expect Bayern Munich to go deep, deep, deep into the Champions League. They've got to work out who their best central midfield combination is, but I think their forward line will take them a long way into the tournament.
I mean, we're joking a lot about coefficients and this, that and the other, but the fact is that the elite European competition is now being structured or restructured to ensure that the biggest clubs have the security that prevents them from going off and taking their ball with them. And that can't be healthy for elite European competition. We have moved so far away from a Champions League where only the champions were involved in it. And it's because of a combination of finance, TV rights, and big clubs demanding their gold card be exercised. I'm talking metaphorically here for the avoidance of any doubt. And what we have now is almost... it's so far removed from a Champions League and has just now become a vehicle for the biggest clubs to say we can play elite European football every season, and if we don't get that opportunity to do that, we will go elsewhere. So we don't care what you do. You can dress it up as coefficients and whatever else.
No.
But we want as many clubs from our leagues in that competition.
And Darren, just to cement what you're saying, when they fought off the Champions League, and don't forget, it wasn't UEFA and the officials who fought off; it was fans who fought the Super League off. The downside was Sheffrin was all full of, okay, we've seen off these big clubs. They didn't fine any of the clubs any huge amount of money. They just let them carry on. And now what they've done is, because it's done on coefficients and stuff, they are setting up a self-perpetuating league where, just to pick two names, where Juventus and Barcelona will never not qualify for the Champions League. Never mind they'll go into the latter stages because of this ridiculous league system, but they'll almost qualify for it as well. It's very, very odd, and it's not very healthy for the game. Although, of course, once the actual matches come round in this draw that we've been talking about for the round of 16, I'll be sat in front of the television with the popcorn just like everybody else. But there is moves afoot at the moment. The extension of the World Club Championship, the change in the Champions League, they are terrible moves for the general health of the game. But of course, they will generate, in theory at least, more money. And that's what's behind all that.